Those of you watching may already know we create DJ courses to help everyone from total beginners to advanced DJs looking to improve. Now, I'm really proud of the education we create, and I hope this video gives you a sample of our approach. Even though we show you what settings and features are on your equipment or in your DJ software, we actually want to teach you to mix and get creative. The drills in this video are just a small sample of what our full curriculum offers and how we truly teach you to become a DJ rather than just an operator of some fancy new equipment. No matter where you're at on your DJ journey from beginner to advanced, this is one of those skills that I'd highly recommend spending some time learning, and I love teaching it inside the beginner courses. Now, this is just one part of the bigger puzzle when it comes to beat matching. Yes, we have sync available. Yes, we have the visuals there. They're great, but there is something to be said about training your ears to understand when something's right, when it's wrong, and how to correct the timing and keep in control of the music. So this is a drill that I'd really recommend practicing at home. Now, I've got some of the specific tools that we've developed from the courses here, which are just basic drum loops. Obviously, if you don't have these, you can just loop some drums at the start of a song. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set each side off at different BPM increments. So for example, if I set them off, here we've got one at 124 BPM and one at 125 BPM. If I set them off together, they're going to drift out of time, okay? Now, knowing roughly how long that takes and listening for when it starts to drift out of time is the first thing. Recognizing it, that's step one. And then being able to correct it is step two. And this promotes jog wheel control. This is just one of the steps in this beat matching stage. But what you could do is set them both off and then move the visuals out the way, close your laptop screen, turn it to library view, and try and just get that jog wheel, nudge, correct, and put them back in time. Now, the trick here is to try and keep them in time. So we're not touching the tempo adjust. What we're doing is training our brain to understand that when they are 1 BPM apart, this is the kind of adjustment we're going to have to apply to put them back in time. Now, you want to be confident at this, be able to do it really second nature. And then what you would do is take it 2 BPM apart, and you can keep repeating this process. So here, if I move it to 126 BPM and 124, you could get rid of the visuals again. On Rekordbox, for example, you could just press the space bar and it gets rid of the scrolling waveforms and puts it in library view. But if I press play on both now, listen, they should go out of time a bit quicker. Detecting it, hearing it, that's the first part. Checking which way, that sounded worse, so then we go back the opposite way, we're slowing this one down. And getting used to what kind of movement now that equates to. Can you keep in control? Can you manually keep it in time? Remember, this is a drill, it's training muscle memory, it's building up your attention to the music and being able to force your ears to listen to what's going on, which really helps in the long run when it comes to mixing and just taking control of your music as a DJ. So then, once you've done that, you then go to 3 BPM and you keep pushing them different ways. Obviously, try it faster and try it slower. Don't go much more than maybe 4 or 5 BPM because otherwise you're literally going to be fighting the jog wheel to no end. But just up to 4 or 5 BPM difference really promotes the control of the music, control of your equipment and the jog wheel, and just tuning your ears into when something's in time and keeping it in time. This drill can be expanded upon, and we do within our courses so much, but that's one of part of it that can really help you take control of your mixing. A technique you might see a lot of DJs doing is using the hot cues to create finger drumming patterns. So taking things like bits of vocal and chopping it up using the hot cues. So for example, now, the possibilities are endless with this, and you can chop things up. You can start elevating it by using the crossfader and cutting bits in and out. But the drill here for you to practice at home is to take it right back to the basics of music structure. Now, I'm creating all sorts of patterns there in that example. But to learn this technique and build up the muscle memory, what I would recommend you do is just get a song loaded and just loop a section of it. So we could just loop some basic drums within there. And we've just got that basic drum structure. Even just a kick drum's fine. And then on the opposite side, you want to set up some hot cues, ideally just one to start with on an isolated piece of vocal or melody, something that's just stands by itself, not drums, ideally some bit of vocal. So I've got an acapella loaded here, and I'm using music from our Crossfader music pack. So once you've got one set up, you would then drill down the repetition of the music. So think about just the straight structure. We've got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you want to get used to just hitting on the beat. And when you feel like you can keep your timing with the beat like this, we then want to be able to double time it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I take it away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what you want to do is drill down, being able to control going from the single timing to the double timing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's the next part of the drill, is to just get that muscle memory built up to the structure of the music. And we're just doing it to the single time and the double time. Then you'll notice that when we do actual finger drumming and you hear other DJs doing it, it's not as robotic and repetitive as that. So then we want to pick out some of the different timings, again, like the offbeats or even triplet timing. Now, without getting too advanced, you could try and practice doing the offbeats. This kind of comes in with where, if I just play this, we've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and it's the bits in between each beat. So we could add in 1 and. So it's still to the same structure, but it's on the offbeat. So we've got 3 different things to play around with there. Once you feel confident with that, it's about creating patterns. So we might think about going 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, which would sound like. And it's starting to build up a bit of rhythm. You just keep the loop going and do it to the time. Then you could create more gaps in it. So you could have, bring it back in. And that's all I'm doing there, is letting it play for 2 beats. So I'm going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then we just start to elaborate more and more. So in our courses, obviously we dive deep into this drill, but that's the basics of it. Set up a loop, set up a hot cue, and start picking out the rhythm of the music and start creating your own rhythms using the single timing, the double timing, and some of the offbeats. Till then, you can just think of a pattern. And you can create something a bit more rhythmical, but start simple, start structured, and just build up that muscle memory. Practice with both hands as well. An awesome drill to help practice with your EQing and your mixing is to simply set up loops towards the points where you're going to mix in and out on 2 songs. So for example, on this song here, I would go to, say, the outro section, the last drop, go to my loop mode, and I'm going to set up, if I click on it here, that's now a 32 beat loop. I'm even going to double it to 64 beats. So I've got that loop on my outro section, basically where the track's ending. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the intro section of the next track. So let's do that, double it to 62. And then now we've got a 62 beat loop here and here, and we can set them both off at the same time, ultimately mixing the intro of this song into the outro of that one. But because they're looping, we can then experiment just focusing on the EQs. And what you would do here is you would turn some of the EQs up and down to hear the difference between the 2 songs. Of if you were to take the low end out of this song at this point, what would it do? What would it sound like? And it means that you can keep practicing over the same section over and over again. For example, nudge them in time. Straight away, if I were to take the low end out, it should clean up and sound a bit nicer with this intro section. I could take some of the mids and the highs down just to take some of the energy away and listen to what that sounds like. But then there's a point where you want to start mixing them across, so you just experiment. There you notice if I do this with the mids, we lose that vocal element that was in there. Same applies if I swap the lows too early. We kind of lose the body and the main part of this song, and we just end up with a straight up drum beat on the opposite side. So we can start to detect what sounds better and what sounds worse when it comes to EQing. So that might sound a bit nicer at that point. And then that would be the end of the mix. You could then repeat this process with lots of different songs. You could go to the outro of this song, the intro of that song, and just keep experimenting. You could also add some filtering in there and test what it sounds like with the filters. And that's where it would have dropped in. But because it's looping, we can just reset and keep practicing over and over. So there's not a hard and fast rule here that I'm going through. It's more about the process of setting up the intro and the outro. So you've got time to keep going over it and keep testing the EQs, testing the filters to see what sounds best. You might find that some parts have a nice groovy bass line that kicks in, and you want to make sure your low end's in at that point so you can practice getting, the EQs swapped for that position in the mix. So drill that, load different songs, set up loops nice and long that last pretty much the length of the intro, the time you're going to be mixing, reset it, do it slightly differently the next time. Try and compare which sounds best.
50% off all DJ courses. Our Black Friday sale is now live. Learn to mix your favorite genres like house, techno, hip hop, drum and bass, or open format. Master CDJs or get started with your controller like the popular DDJ Flex 4. Dive deeper into popular DJ software like Recordbox, Serato, Traktor, and Engine DJ, or take your career further. Learn how to get more gigs and manage your music like the pros. Save 50% and visit wearecrossfader.co.uk now.
Crossfader is such a useful tool for DJs, and there's a few ways you could drill down using it. Now, I love using it to cut in and out of songs. So this is where you start to promote and build good hand control on the crossfader. Practice both with your left and your right hand. First of all, what we're going to do is set up a tone sound. So I've got a sound here from the Crossfader scratching tool from our courses, and it's just a long tone sound like this. Now you could just type in Google like sine wave or saw wave or tone sound, and you might be able to find one like it. If not, you could set a really tight loop, make it as tight as possible so it's just like a drilling sound. You just want something constant that then you can just play and just let play. Then the crossfader cut off. Let's go over the control with our hand first. We've got our thumb against the crossfader, and then we use our either middle finger and index finger or both to kind of open the crossfader, it's called, and then remove them, and the pressure with your thumb pushes it back across. Now, the crossfader can be used obviously by scratch DJs. This is definitely a good drill to practice if you intend on scratching or learning to scratch, but it can just be used by like house DJs as well. You'll see a lot of DJs cutting loops up and cutting in and out with the hot cues like this. So that crossfader control, this is what we're building up in this drill. So with the tone sound playing, we want to get used to cutting in and revealing that sound and trying to just keep a rhythm. And this is a bit like the hot cue play that we covered earlier in the video. You would then set off a song and you would try and just cut to the beat. So we'd count along, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, and just do it to the single time. Then, can you speed it up? Can you go to the double time? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then can you go back and forth, just like with the hot cue, but this time we're using the crossfader. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And as before, you could start thinking about the offbeats and the other rhythms within the music. So without recovering all of that again, you would then start thinking about patterns in the music. So I'd listen to it and I'd think da 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 an example. Or we could have but. So this drill can just be practiced over and over, and it's just building that muscle memory and control with the crossfader to open and close it to create the cuts. And then it's where if you were intending on learning to scratch, then you could introduce your scratching hand, and the scratching hand is just then moving, but the control on the crossfader is basically the same. And you can just move the jog wheel and then cut it with this. So that's where scratch DJs will just open and close the crossfader, and it's just all built from that initial control of being able to cut the crossfader open and closed. It's just we've got one more thing to do with the scratch hand. But like I said, even if you don't intend to scratch, you see DJs with loops cutting up with the crossfader, and it just builds on that same structure of learning the rhythm of the music, doing the single time, doing the double time, then combining the two to create patterns. So just remember, thumb against the crossfader, and then either both your middle and index finger to open and close it. We're just always applying a bit of pressure with the thumb to cut it that way. This next drill is more about the mindset and approach when it comes to practice sessions. And it's something that isn't done enough by a lot of DJs, is the idea that we have millions of songs available to us thanks to streaming. A lot of people out there will have a large music collection. And when it comes to that practice session, you step up to the decks and you just start mixing, which is great. And then you're always wanting to play something new. You're always trying to find some new music. You're always trying to include the latest songs in your mixing and your practice. And there's something to be said about narrowing down your library drastically and just focusing on, I would say, 10 songs. This is where playlists are great and come in. So I would make a playlist and I'd just drag in maybe the 10 to 15 songs that I want to work on. Maybe I want to put a mini set together. I really want these songs to work in a similar area in my set. Don't think about the whole set, just think about a section of it. And then I'd just go over those songs over and over. Don't overthink it. I'd start mixing. When two songs sound like they work really well together, I'd just make sure they sit next to each other in that playlist. And then I'd drag my songs up and down. And I'm doing this on the decks. I've got my equipment plugged in and I'm, mixing, and I think, okay, that's good. Let's stop there, and I'll drag that song up, move it back down. Okay, let me try, go from that position, and I'll just mix those again. Okay, I don't really like that. Let me load a different song in, and I'll just keep that same one on, but a different one. Let me try them too. And it's more about, rather than trying to always be mixing new music, try and just nail down a solid set of 10 to 15 songs. And then that becomes almost a mini routine, a mini part of your set that you can just call upon at any point. And then you'll have lots of these building blocks which make up an entire set. Don't let 1 hour, 2 hours worth of mixing overwhelm you. Just break it down into 10-minute, 15-minute chunks and think, yeah, I've got a good solid 10 minutes here that I'm confident with. I know the tracks work well together. And if the gig calls for it, I can just jump into that little mini set and just play them with confidence, and then know I've practiced them, they sound good together. So drill it down that way. Narrow your library down. Don't be overwhelmed by the millions of songs you have access to. Just pick 10 and just work on them for an hour, 2 hours, mixing them over and over, and you'll start to build up a lot of muscle memory around that particular style of music, around that particular little set list you've got, and I guarantee that will then slot into a much bigger picture when it comes to gigging and playing at future gigs. I'd love to know in the comments below which one of these 5 drills you're going to prioritize in your next practice session. Or have you not even thought about specific drills like this when it comes to practicing the art of DJing? Are you just going, stepping up to your equipment and then just getting overwhelmed, not knowing what to do? This is where I love breaking down these techniques and using them as building blocks to make a well-rounded, confident and creative DJ. And that's exactly what we do inside the Crossfader DJ courses. This is just a small sampling of the kind of education you can expect in there. And if you feel like an online DJ course is the right way for you to get some accountability and some structure and to level up your skills, then make sure to check out wearecrossfader.co.uk. Thank you so much for watching, and then make sure to check out this video for some more tips and tricks, and I'll see you in another one very soon.